my name is Michael Yu. I'm a almost second-year dental student at Western University in Pomona, California, and we're joined by
Vivian, and I'm also a D2, and we are in the same class.
Yeah. So I asked Vivian to be here because I felt, Viv and I are actually pre-dental coordinators at Western U. And I've gotten to work with her very closely, and she has a very interesting story. So right off the bat, why don't you just tell us about yourself, kind of where you grew up, where you went to undergrad, how you found dentistry.
Okay, so I grew up from California in the San Fernando Valley, so shout out to the 818s. I went to UC Santa Barbara as my undergrad, and I majored in biology. I always knew that I wanted to be in the health field, but I had no idea what it was. And luckily my sister just recommended, why don't I just try dentistry? So I decided why not, because I had nothing going on in terms of what I wanted to do in my career path. So I gave that up. What's the word? Like,
you explored it?
I explored it. I decided to write up a cover letter, resume, and literally research every single dental office in my area, and personally went out to each office and just told them, hey, this is what I'm interested in. I just wanted to get some experience. If there's any way I could get some with you, then that would be awesome. And then one day I just landed a great opportunity with a private dental office in Santa Barbara. And from there I got to learn as an intern, and then as a desk manager, lab technician, and eventually just like the manager of being a dental assistant. And I think with all of that type of experience, I just ended up loving dentistry.
Kind of going back a little bit, I know because you've talked to me before, but your pre-dental journey, it didn't start out too positively, or you had an upward trend in your GPA is what I'm trying to point out. Okay. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so like I said, I had no direction in terms of what I wanted to do in my professional career. So within my first 2 years, I also didn't perform as well either, due to the lack of direction. So I think within the first 2 years, I think I averaged with a 2.5 GPA, I'd want to say, yeah. And my science GPA was even lower. And I wasn't doing anything. I think I was just enjoying life, but...
Which most people do, they go into undergrad and...
But I just went to the extreme. I just didn't know how to study. I didn't know, I was not really hanging out with people that like really were motivated into continuously studying, and that also affected my grades because I just was so into having fun. But once I was told to look into dentistry, and once I started to try out and intern at a dental office, it gave me a direction of like what I wanted to be, and it reignited my motivation to do better in school so that I can pursue something like this. And because of that, I relocated all of my priorities. I stepped up my game in the sense that I worked 3 times as hard to do better in school. I continue to work at a dental clinic. I continue to take leadership positions in organizations that I was interested in, and then participated in professional organizations, and just keep going out to any offered dental opportunities that would expose me more to just the dental community. And eventually, in the end, with the additional volunteer experience, dental experience, I also averaged with a 3.8 GPA within the last 2 of my years. And I mentioned how that my first 2 years isn't reflective of who I am now, and the fact that I had such a high upward trend, and highlighting how well I did within the last 2 years as a separate GPA, just to mention why I'm in this position of a 3.4 GPA type of
You're
thing.
a totally different student from what you were back then.
Yes.
And you kind of turned it around and turned into this outstanding student. And
yeah.
You applied once too, didn't you? And you didn't have to like go through a master's program or post back. You really turned things around, and yeah, you really kind of you really kind of pushed forward and went against all odds, because I'm sure some undergraduate students, they might be in the same position as you, and it just seems hopeless, especially if you have, you know, a low GPA at one point.
Well, even if I did apply only once, I actually took 2 gap years. So the first gap year, I dedicated that time to taking the DAT, gaining more volunteer experience, dental experience, and taking additional classes that were recommended by dental schools that I was interested in. That way I could continuously show my dedication to the profession, dedication to also making sure my grades were not something I was satisfied with, but more like continuously improving myself and demonstrating that I was a hard worker, you know. And I think it's not just like I went straight out of school and went into one. I continuously went to school and then took like classes that I was interested in, not only just dental related, but also I took like a business class just for fun.
Wow. Yeah, I'm actually learning more about you. I didn't know about that. I thought you had taken 1 gap year and then applied that next year, but it was two gap years.
2 gap years because I decided to apply during that first gap year, and then you wait another year.
Right.
So
right.
within that 2-year frame, I was constantly improving and building my resume, and constantly updating the schools that I applied to. Also, like anytime I did anything new, I was like, send, did you get it? Great.
Wow. So you emailed and then you followed up with a phone call, and they were receptive towards that, or?
Yeah, most schools will, maybe I won't be able to talk to someone directly, but I would get either an email responding back saying that they received it and put it back into my application, or that I talked to someone on the phone and they just made sure that my application was up to date.
Yeah, that's really good though, because you're very proactive about your application, which most people, or if you're like me, I ended up sending in my application and just kind of waited around for something to happen, maybe get a secondary, or maybe get a phone call from somebody saying, oh, you're missing a class, you know. But you were very proactive about it, and not only that, after you applied, you stayed active and you continued assisting, is what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I continued to assist, found out any possible volunteer clinic opportunities that were available. I like asked around and just like tried to see if there were any health fairs that I could try to participate in. And then if I did them, then I would immediately write about the event, who was the supervisor, the time that I volunteered, what I did, what I learned, and then sent it in as another experience.
Oh, that's really key too, because you not only you didn't give a summary of what you did, you very much personalized it and reflected upon what your experience was like, and then kind of summarized that and then sent that off to you. That's crazy. That's I mean, that takes a lot of dedication to do. On that note, while applying, so how many schools did you apply to?
I've applied to quite a few because I wanted to make sure that I could get in, and so I applied to about 13, 14 schools. Okay. Which is pretty standard, it seems. About 10 to 15, seems like most people. Yeah. Give or take.
Yeah, and out of those, how many interviews did you go to?
I got to go to, I think, 4. They were all within the 1 month that I applied. 1 month, all the interviews were all back to back within 1 week after each other. But that doesn't mean that it was smooth, because I applied pretty late compared to the recommended time. I applied the first day of September, and I didn't hear back until January. So you get an interview. So you
submitted your primary in September. Oh wow. Wow. And that's like super lucky to even
hear back. Yeah, because it was post December, so obviously I wouldn't have gone any acceptance interviews. Acceptance is because I didn't get any interviews prior to December, and all of my interviews were in January, like first weekend of January, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
My goodness. So just the whole month of January you were flying around the United States and kind of doing these interviews, meeting with doctors who could essentially determine your future. Wow.
But it wasn't easy because it was after December, and these are interviews, you know, much later.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like for some reason there are a lot more people at those post-December interviews. And did it seem that way to you?
In our class? Yes.
Yeah.
At least in our class.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't say that for everyone else, because usually it's a rolling basis, and if everybody happens to accept their offer, then
Yeah.
That's how it is.
That's, you just lose your spot in the school.
Mhm.
Yeah. Something we have in common is you got into Midwestern Illinois. I got into Midwestern Arizona. And at one point you were actually ready to go off to to Midwestern Illinois, and I think you were ready to move out that next week or something like that.
Yeah, I was.
And then something happened.
Yeah.
Oh, can you?
So let me like go back really quick. So for interviews for Western, I actually had one more in February, right? And I got a phone call the day before the last interview that would be held at Western. So
I think that was like February 13th or something like that.
So I got the call maybe February 8th, and the interview was February 9th, and it was only because someone dropped out last minute. So I was a last minute add-on to this interview.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
And then to respond to Michael's question, someone else dropped last minute in the middle of orientation week of Western. And then I was in the middle of packing all of my clothes. I had a house already set up, all my schooling information all sent in, vaccinations, everything to that school. And then I get a phone call, and the faculty that I interviewed with was like, hey, you know, there's an extra spot, would you like to come in? And I was just sobbing. Side note, I'm extremely excited that I got into Midwestern Illinois, and I was completely ready to move and ready to meet my like new potential classmates. But the fact that Western was one of my top choices in the sense that my parents lived like 30 minutes away. It was in California, where I'd hope to continue to work and, you know, settle down. And it had a lot of the same things I look for in a dental school was both in Illinois and Western. So it was mainly just, it came down to family and location, which is why Western was the option I went for. And it was crazy because I got to go in literally 2 days before the end of orientation week.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we went through, I think, most of our Western U orientation week, and then all of a sudden Viv walks in, and it's like, hi, I'm new. And that was a crazy time for you too, because you had to find a place to live.
Last minute.
You were canceling your place to live over in Illinois. And don't get me wrong, I mean, Illinois, Midwestern, Arizona, and Illinois, they're very, very great schools.
They're amazing, yeah, great schools.
And you know, to make that decision too, it just like a moment, because
I was torn.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I actually had to hang up and be like, let me call you back. And I didn't know if that was a good idea or not. I had to call my sister and was like, I really love this school, but I just got into this school. What should I do? And it came down to family and location.
Man.
That was it. But otherwise, both programs were amazing.
But seriously, still just a roller coaster of emotions, just within those few hours, really, not even within days.
Because I like went in the next day to start my class, and the day after that was white coat ceremony.
Yeah. That's crazy. And everyone had already met each other. And this was, again, in August, so you had gotten off at that point you were on the wait list, right?
Yeah, I was on the wait list. But you know what's insane was that I was last minute to everything with Western. Like, it was just the last minute you could possibly get. You know, like the last
minute to apply, last minute to interview, last minute to get accepted. Wow.
So it was just like, I don't know what happened, but really look grateful.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our classmates always say, you know, we're so glad that Vivian came into our class, because again, she does a lot of the pre-dental coordination, and
we're the pre-dental co-chairs, if you don't know yet, for Western ASDA.
Yeah, and Viv just brings these crazy good ideas to the floor, and we recently had our pre-dental day. I'll actually link that video in the description, but it was a really big successful event, and it was really well planned out, and I actually ended up having to leave to a wedding, and so Viv and another one of our classmates ended up heading that event, and I heard a bunch of great stuff from it, and hopefully next year they're wanting you to
we'll see more of you guys.
yeah, definitely. But oh man, that's okay. So we went through kind of your pre-dental journey, your interview process, and you getting accepted here. What is your first year of Western U been like, just being here amongst our class? Like, maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Okay, so I think Western University already has a huge reputation for the camaraderie and dental community that we get with our faculty and dental students, and I got that as soon as I got my first phone call from Western University. So like, I think that reputation holds itself in the sense that I think we all love our faculty and we all love each other. My experience, dental school regardless is going to be tough, and it's going to test your limits. But with that said, that experience wouldn't have been as amazing as it was if it weren't for the people that you're constantly surrounded with. And I have found like a great support system within not only my faculty but also my class. So we are really close. We have one group chat where we constantly just share like a plethora of whatever knowledge that we have that could help us with school. We all have our own little roles. Like for me, it's to constantly remind people to download the exam the day before the test. And if I forget, someone somehow will message me and let me know that it's my time.
And that wasn't like an assigned role to you either.
No.
That was just out of the pureness of your heart that you're like, you started that.
But then it became a
yeah,
continuous thing, and like that's just one of the roles. Someone else will always make, oh, Andrea, she's gonna make Realize It like test questions for us, and she'll share it through our chat just so that we can also study those flashcards that she makes too.
And it's amazing how everyone has, like, from different backgrounds have come together, and we're all kind of on an even playing field, and we make it that way too, so that we can help each other out. And it really I know some schools emphasize like when you got in and when you got accepted, but our school, it really isn't even about that. It's really about you're a part of this family now. We're going to do everything that we can in order to make your education as smooth as possible, and on top of that, we have amazing classmates that just make it so fun. Like,
like to mention, so we had a pre-dental day recently, and summer, I can guarantee you, is one of the worst times of my life just because of the pure load of work. But regardless of how busy we were, I think our class alone, about like 30 to 40 volunteers came out on a really busy week and decided to all help us out for just free, for pure company and support. And
I had some classmates come to me and just say, that was the most rewarding experience of my dental school career. Helping pre-dental students was the most rewarding experience of their dental school career so far. And that was just like, that spoke volume to me. And it's crazy good.
Yes, that's why Western is awesome.
We said we're going to try and keep this to 30 minutes, so I'm going to do that as best as possible. If you have any piece of advice for anyone who might still be on the wait list now, or anyone who's going through the new application cycle, so what would those two pieces of advice be?
If you're on the new application cycle and you haven't applied yet, I suggest doing your research and trying to fill in as much as you can out of the application early. So even if I hope you start a year before, because you can definitely write your personal statement, and that takes time. Like, most people think that once the application comes out, that's when you should start, and they think that it's gonna take maybe like 2 weeks or a week, but it's a continuous, constant improvement that you can work on all the time. And because it's always changing and you're obviously trying to grow and improve and show that to your faculty, it's best to start right now. You should be doing it now. And then, like, I think for me personally, I was really scared to reach out to people to ask for help, especially from dental students or faculty that had already extended their hand to help. And I think it only benefits you if you just constantly ask them. And I think that if they had already reached out to you to offer their help, they're gonna always want to like help you as much as they can. And so my biggest advice with that is take every opportunity that you get and make sure you ask whatever questions you need, because they can help you provide it on whatever you need.
They've essentially made themselves available to you. So.
And then for the waitlisters, which that was my whole experience as an applicant. I suggest constantly improving your application. So for me, it was keep on volunteering, keep on going to clinics, volunteer clinics that were offered, research if you don't know about any of them. And even if you are on a financial constraint, there are free online webinars that you can attend. ASDA does them, ADEA does them, and now that you know that, you can use that as an opportunity and take that advantage to constantly build your resume and your repertoire, and also your knowledge, and be involved with the dental community by coming to these online webinars. And you can easily access that at any local library, and that should be free access to you too.
Yeah, I can't say it better, because I actually didn't know about those online webinars as a pre-dental student. Never participated in them. They would have made just the whole journey a lot smoother, a lot easier.
Yeah, and it's maybe only like an hour to 2 hours of your time, but you can still add that to your application.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Thank you again so much for, I know I've been bugging you about this for like 2 weeks now, and we've had like 2 exams in that time, and
a lot of projects, and it's finally wrapping up. We have 1 more week of summer semester left, and I still pulled you aside, and I managed to, thank you. I know. What did we do today? We did we had clinic this morning from 8 to noon, and then we had 1 to 5 oral pathology, and then we were in clinic practicing for exam tomorrow. We also had a quiz. Yeah. And that's why we look like this at the moment. Yeah. Again, thank you so much just for being here, and just for being part of our class, and just making not only my experience in dental school a lot better. Tears. No, seriously, it's just been such a blast just having you in our class, and you being able to share your story with pre-dental students. I'm sure it'll give more people hope, and you know, that comes from a special place. That's a very nice thing to do. So can you throw some hearts and tears? We'll throw some hearts here. Yeah. Thank you for having me, and don't be afraid to ask me any questions, because we are your pre-dental chairs. So more than anything, we'd love to help. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye! Hey everybody, congratulations to Ethan and Benjamin for winning the contest from our last video, and here are some photos of Joy.